What's up guys and welcome to my 4.2 updated Asta guide. Asta is a 4-star character who's been in the game since 1.0 and is going to see a recent resurgence thanks to the fact of Silver Wolf SP. Due to her certain buff, she's actually a very solid teammate, and in this video I'm taking over everything you do need to know in order to understand her with a kit overview and how to properly gear her for general usage, which mainly would apply to Silver Wolf SP. So I will in this video mention whether this is good for Silver Wolf, as this is mainly going to be an Asta guide made for Silver Wolf in mind. However, the way you build it for Silver Wolf is how you build her generally anyways, so rest assured if you're not building her for Silver Wolf and for something else, this is still how you would build it. Asta's basic attack does fire damage based off her attack to a designated enemy. Her skill does fire damage based off her attack to a designated enemy and further deals damage an extra 4 times, dealing fire damage based off her attack to a random enemy. Her ultimate increases the speed of all allies by 50 for 2 turns. Her talent gives Asta a charge for every different enemy hit by Asta with an attack, plus an extra stack if they have fire weakness. Every stack of charging that Asta does have will increase the team's attack by 14% up to 5 times. Starting from Asta's second turn, her charging stack count will be reduced by 3 at the beginning of every turn. Her technique immediately attacks the enemy. Entering battle will deal fire damage based off her attack to all enemies. For traces, her A2 will have her basic attack have a 80% base chance to burn an enemy for 3 turns. Her A4 increases the fire damage of all allies while Asta is on the field, and her A6 will increase Asta's defense for every charging stack she possesses. For Eidolons, her E1 will give her skill an additional bounce instance. Her E2 makes it to where when Asta uses her ultimate, the next turn will not reduce Asta's charging stacks. Her E4 increases Asta's energy regeneration rate by 15% when she has 2 or more charging stacks, and her E6 will make the charging stacks you lose reduced by 1. For our best Lightcone options, for Silver Wolf SP and just in general, there really is only one Lightcone you want to use on her nowadays, and that is none other than Dance Dance Dance. The wearer using their ultimate, all allies' actions will be advanced forward by 16%, at S5 it is 24%. There's not many supportive Lightcones that Asta could hold that is effective, but Dance 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 not only being one of, if not the best Lightcone in the game, Asta herself also is able to utilize it well. She gets ultimate frequently enough to actually get this effect to go off, and her ultimate is entirely speed based. Speed and advance forward and action advances, so on and so forth, do play very well together, as you do need to hit certain action values and action thresholds to gain extra turns or just acting quicker before enemies, so on and so forth. So the best Lightcone you can possibly give her for any role, even if you're not using her for Silver Wolf, is going to be Dance Dance Dance, and it just pairs with her speed buff very well and is one of like the only Lightcones that really have anything for her. If you do not actually have a Dance 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 available, there is one option you would use otherwise, and that is Meshing Cogs, where using attack or getting hit will restore 4 energy and cannot repeatedly trigger within a single turn. At S5 it's 8 energy. So this would be the Lightcone you use otherwise, just so you can get more energy for Asta so she can get her ultimate quicker and you could cycle it up and keep uptime on her speed buff for the team. Universally, this would also be the same thing that applies with Silver Wolf, without Silver Wolf. This is the one you would be using if you do not have a Dance 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 available for her. One for more general use, so not really a Silver Wolf or Elation team in general, is going to be Planetary Rendezvous, which after entering battle, if an ally deals the same damage type as the wearer, damage dealt increases by 12%, at S5 it's 24%. Just some 24% extra damage for anyone on the team that is fire, so you'd have to ensure the DPS primarily is fire. This is not really an effective case, and there's not many cases where you would use this, but I am mentioning it just so you have one more fallback option. But since Meshing Cogs is a 3-star option, no matter the player, you should have an S5 one available. So use Dance Dance Dance, that's going to be a primary thing for any single team. If not that, Meshing Cogs, and then Planetary Rendezvous is there, but really just use Meshing Cogs. For relic sets in general, but especially for Silver Wolf SP, you want to run 4-piece Hackerspace, 2-piece providing 6% speed, 4-piece when the wearer uses their ultimate on an ally. Speed for all allies will increase by 12% for 1 turn and cannot be stacked. 2-piece makes her easier to build, as you really just want to stack as much speed as possible on Asta, and the 4-piece is able to give the entire team 12% speed. So you are able to further her actual overall speed buff, so you get 50 to 52 depending on if you have the Eidolon for it in her base kit. Now you can give them an extra 12%, which would be more or less depending on their base speed. For someone like Silver Wolf, this could actually help you fully cap out her actual trace for that turn that this buff is active, which is why it is super effective and can actually help you hit higher speed thresholds for an extra turn on your teams. This is also super beneficial to Yagwag, who is going to be on the Silver Wolf team, but in general, even outside of it, it's just going to be more speed for characters, so it is beneficial. Other than this, you can also use 4-piece Eagle for the 4-piece, giving a 25% advance forward when the wearer uses their ultimate, just so you can accelerate Asta's turns quicker, use your skill, get your ultimate quicker to keep uptime on it. That is the only reason, but do make sure it's actually netting you an extra turn at least. Although this is probably one of the few times where Eagle is an available option, but I'd rather you run the Hackerspace instead, just because while Eagle still is good in that regard, Hackerspace is going to be better just for that speed buff. Those are really the only 4 pieces you would want to run. Otherwise, just do 2-piece speed and 2-piece speed. So 2-piece Hackerspace with 2-piece Relieved Ordeal, or Warrior Goddess, or the Divider set, as you would be able to get up to 12% speed. For planar ornaments, the most recommended one is going to be Von Walk for 5% energy regen rate for the wearer, and 120 speed or higher will give the wearer a 40% advance forward upon entering battle. This just helps you alongside a very fast Asta to be able to act first, use your skill, get your ultimate as quick as possible to get it up. This is the best ornament you can run by far for instant setup, and is the most recommended one you want to use. Especially on a Silver Wolf team where something like Lushaka does give energy regen for Asta, but the attack buff is worthless on that team for the most part, besides for Sparksy. So if you just position Sparksy first in that slot, then you could. So yeah, in the theoretical case you run Lushaka, you would just position Sparksy first instead. But again, Von Walk is the most recommended. You also can run Keel for 10% crit damage for the team, as that does help Elation, since they do want to be built with crit as long as you have the 30% effect res, but this is more outdated. It's very recommended to run one with the 5% energy regen. So Von Walk or that Lushaka setup, but primarily Von Walk. For the main sets on the relics, for the body, you want to run HP percent or defense percent. For the feet, you want to run speed. For the orb, you want to run HP percent or defense percent. And for the lick rope, you want to run energy regen rate. For the substats, your literal only goal is to stack as much speed as you possibly can. There is nothing else that is relatively worth it. Besides, if you are running Keel, be sure you do get the 30% effect res. That would be the only other thing. Other than that, just stack as much speed as possible. If your pieces have stuff like HP percent, defense percent, or even more effect res just for survivability, that is going to be your next priority. But you really are just going to hard toggle speed. There's no point for crit, she's not going to do damage. There's no point for attack, she's not going to do damage. That's the reason I don't recommend Fire Orb either. She is just not going to do damage, especially nowadays. Her damage is completely worthless and not something you should focus on. So just focus on pure speed, get as much as you possibly can, and then get some survivability after that, just so you can live a few hits, especially because the team with Silver Wolf would be sustainless. And you would be aiming for over 170 speed if possible, maybe even to the 180s if you really can. Just get as much as you possibly can. Do note, with their speed buff up, you probably are going to be netting a total of 3 turns in the first MLC cycle. But if you are able to push it to the 266 range to get the extra 4th turn, then that's going to be ideal. So again, just build as much speed as you possibly can. No matter the build, no matter the team, that's your goal. Now for some team building ideas. I have to be brutally honest with you guys, Asta is really not on any teams. So exclusively for the Silver Wolf team, where would be her one actual resurgence of a team? The team is going to be Asta herself, Silver Wolf, who is not out, so I can't put her here, and Yaguang is also going to be a teammate in that case, so Yaguang would also be on that team, so put Yaguang there. Last slot would be Sparksy, so the team would be Asta herself, Silver Wolf as the main DPS. I'm just gonna go ahead and put the old Silver Wolf just so you have something to compare with. So yeah, Silver Wolf SP is the main DPS, Yaguang for the primary support, and the last slot would be Sparksy for what she provides to Silver Wolf and also her damage and contribution. There is no room for a sustain in the slot, as the whole point of putting in Asta is going to be a sustainless setup, so do keep that in mind. The other team where you can use Asta on is a more on the niche side team, and that is primarily a Cyrene carry team, where you would run Asta, Cyrene, and then you would also run Hyacine as a sustain because she just works great with Cyrene. Last slot would go to RMC. That is usually a good pairing for main DPS Cyrene, but you can also put Evernight, especially if you do have investment in your Evernight. So just pick whatever option is there. This would really be the only other DPS quote-unquote that she is going to work with. While there are some other speed scaling ones like Aglia, it is generally not advised to do that. And in general, it's not really advised to do anything else except a Cyrene hypercarry team with Asta, or the upcoming Silver Wolf sustainless team, which again consists of Asta, Silver Wolf SP, Yaguang, and Sparksy for the last slot. And that is the full 4.2 updated Asta guide. I know it's probably a little more disappointing to have a guide that doesn't really incentivize more on overall team variety for the character, but that's just kind of unfortunately how it is for Asta. While on paper her speed buff being a massive 50 speed is universally good for anyone that is build speed, because it allows you to just build extra thresholds for more turns. On all the existing teams, it's not really ever going to be an upgrade through their actual options. Even if you already have like a bunch of Dance setups and Eagle setups, there's really never going to be a case where Asta Asta is going to be actually appearing on these existing teams. That's why you don't really see any low cost clears with her anymore. And then especially from mid cost to high cost, where she would just be replaced by the best in soft for that thing. This is solely for people looking to build her for the resurgence of Silver Wolf, because that is where she's going to have her slot, at least until there is a fourth slot that is definitive best. Also just happens to work really good there, so I do want to make this guide for her. But hey, I guess we could pray that they might do 4-star normal flares in the future. We'll see. It's just unfortunately how it is with Asta. Even though her buff is good, it's just kind of how it is. I do hope you found this video helpful. If you did, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all the types of style content. And I'll see you later. Peace out.